What's going on, everybody? I'm Guns for Hire and welcome to Game Flash. And today's video is going to be a little bit longer than normal because it's not about a specific article or an announcement. It's more of my personal analysis, looking over the statements, everything that's out there, and questioning the popular consensus of what everything means, and not doing it to stir crap up, not doing it so that we get, shake our fists at Activision or Infinity Ward or whatever. It's just, for me, the type of person I am is when I read things, just like you, the headlines, the titles and everything, they get me and I get swept up and I'm like, that's awesome. All platforms, doesn't matter what it is, Xbox 360, Xbox One, PC, PS3, PS4, and Wii U, whatever, are gonna have dedicated service for Call of Duty Ghosts. And then I start reading it, and then I start taking time to really analyze everything, and I start questioning it. But I'm gonna try and stay focused as much as possible here, but there's a lot of information, and chances are, it's gonna be fragmented, but I'm gonna try and keep it sort of solidified so you see what I'm saying here. Now, keep an open mind with this. Keep an open mind, and I'm hoping, to be quite honest with you, and I gotta put this out there, I'm hoping that I am wrong. Dead wrong. I'm hoping that what I'm suspecting is not the truth. Because if I'm wrong, that means that this dedicated server and the potential to have a much greater experience on Call of Duty Ghosts is out there. And it doesn't matter what system you're on. That dedicated servers, like a great service, is gonna be provided no matter what platform you're on. I'm hoping that I'm wrong. I genuinely am. I just want to put the what if out there. The what if what I'm reading and the way I see it is true. Maybe it's more about propaganda, and that's that gray area. For those of you who don't know, my job prior to this, for 13 years as a consultant for injury claims, was to look for gray wording, for me to use gray wording. And that means gray wording is like something, a sentence or whatever, that can be interpreted different ways. It's so vague that it could be interpreted from a different angle, meaning something and supporting something maybe that you would personally see as negative, and then it could also be interpreted, because it's so vague, it could be interpreted a different way, which would be, positive. And it depends, and there's certain people that see it one way or the other, and the way that people read it, or they choose to read it, or the way that the media has portrayed it, can manipulate how you've actually seen it. And suddenly it's just, no, it's there. I've heard everyone says it. The news sites say it. I'm saying that we need to step back and take a look at this a little bit more in detail and say, is that exactly, precisely what they said? Can it be interpreted a different way? And the way I look at this information, it is gray. There is a possibility that it may not be exactly this, shining beacon of light that everyone is making it out to be. All right, we're gonna go back to sort of the point of origin where all of this, discussion of dedicated service for Call of Duty Ghosts came about. And it was on or about September 20th when Microsoft basically announced that dedicated servers would be available thanks to Microsoft's cloud servers. And they said, and I've got it here because I can't remember all this stuff, and I want to make sure that I'm not misquoting things, because that's, when we're talking about gray language, like gray areas that can be misinterpreted, the language is very important when you look at this stuff. And what they basically said was, after saying, oh yeah, Xbox One, kind of a promotion thing. So they're allowed, and this is another important thing, Microsoft or whoever is allowing Infinity Ward to say, hey, you know what, there's gonna be dedicated servers on the Xbox One. That was the announcement. And it makes sense, really, if you think about it, because we're on the eve of next-gen systems, the Xbox One and the PlayStation 4. They want to stir up some interest and some excitement for that console. And what better way to do it than to one of the most successful franchises out there, the Call of Duty franchise. Maybe it's not as big as, GTA 5 with recent record-breaking numbers. Battlefield 4 is coming up, but it is one of the big hitters. So to have something like that and say, guess what, on the Xbox One, dedicated servers. Never before on, for consoles, available for that. And a lot of people have been crying for it. So it was a huge announcement, and it made the Xbox One look really, really enticing. But they said, if not for Microsoft's cloud servers, dedicated servers would not be possible for consoles. Specifically saying that if it weren't for the Microsoft servers, dedicated servers on consoles, not possible. Now we're gonna roll forward by another couple of weeks. I think it was October 7th or 8th when the news hit, you know, the follow-up to this. And this is Mark Rubin, the executive producer for Infinity Ward, that's stating all this information. And if you can check it, everything that I'm saying out on his Twitter there. If you look at Twitter, because this is where it's all stemming from. Don't necessarily look at news articles and everything like that. Keep an open mind and to listen to what I say. I'm not saying it's the truth. Remember, this is just me being kind of like, what if it's from this angle? Everyone's looking at this language and what he's saying from this angle, but what if it's from this angle? And I'm going to mention certain other tweets as well, so just bear with me to the end before you go, yeah, but he said this, because I'm going to probably touch on it. So just pull the reins in, hold on, and just listen. So 2 weeks later, we get Mark Rubin again making some statements, further clarifying or giving more information. And this is where everyone was like, oh my God, including myself. I put a video out saying, yes, dedicated servers, no matter what platform you're on, PS3, PS4, I was excited. I got the news flash, I saw multiple articles reporting on it, and I was like, whoa, that's really cool. As I first glanced on it and got that news article out there as fast as possible, you know what I mean? And then later I'm reading it, I'm like, okay. But this is what was stated. Dedicated servers will be used on current gen, next gen, and PC with ghosts. Okay, so that's straightforward. It's a generic statement though. All he's stating is the type of servers that it's going to be on. He's not naming specific, he's not saying all. The next statement, remember these are separate, period, end of thought, next thing. And in order to make sure that people have the best possible experience regardless of platform, this is where everyone's like, it's multi-platform. It says regardless of platform. But the statement that he's pertaining to regardless of platform is not to do with the fact that dedicated servers are going to be available for everything, the next gen. He just says that the best possible experience regardless of platform, location, or connection. Ghosts will be using a hybrid system. This is important. A hybrid system of dedicated servers and listen servers. The reason why that's important is it's not saying that they are just dedicated servers. They're saying that it's going to be a mix. We're using both dedicated servers and listen servers. And for those of you that don't know what listen servers are, basically it is the way that Call of Duty has been for multiplayer up until now. It's that peer-to-peer. Someone is host, you get lag compensation. In Black Ops 2, everyone's a 5-bar regardless, which drives me nuts. Give us ping numbers, people. That's another thing. Infinity Ward, if you're watching this, give us ping numbers. Don't give us this bar and your compensation and your idea of what, oh look, after we've adjusted everyone's in the same level. No, we're not, you know that. Give us pings. Ping like Battlefield 4 does, so you know exactly what the ping is to that particular person. And you'll know that some of those, I guarantee you see some shady numbers. But anyway, that's not what I want to get into. So we were talking about the listen servers. That's the traditional way to do it. It goes so far into this, and you can read this, as I said, you can read his tweets yourself. I will put a link to his Twitter account in the description, and you can read these. He actually responded to someone talking about dedicated servers. For whatever reason, and the way I'm reading it, I don't have it right in front of me, but there are seemingly a limited number. Now, I find this odd because he's saying, depending on a person's distance to a dedicated server, it may rely more on the listen servers. So it's saying that, you know, if you're too far away from dedicated, you'll probably end up having a listen server. Meaning that it's not, that again, being gray could be interpreted as, you're not, even though they're saying that you're using Microsoft 300,000 cloud servers, that you're not going to be close enough to one that you may be on the listen server, that you may not even be using the dedicated. So although there's dedicated there and they're saying all platforms, you know, everyone's saying all platforms, I'm saying it's the next gen, current gen, and PC have dedicated, and I'm going to get into that as well. But the statement basically is that yes, there's dedicated, you may not be on dedicated. Depending on where you are, you may be using traditional. No one's talking about that. Everyone's just dedicated across the board. Read the tweet yourself. I kid you not. This is coming straight from Mark Rubin. Now I'm going to get into the specifics of that first opening statement that, oh, it's on current gen, next gen, and PC. But they said it's on current gen, next gen. Yes, that statement, if we look at that, if we block everything else out, that one statement where the period ends, that statement can 100% be pure truth Not a lie, not tricking you, possibly manipulating you a little bit, letting you figure things out yourself. Again, that gray, you've interpreted it one way, but that statement can be completely true just from the Microsoft side alone, using their cloud service. Do you think that Microsoft is going to allow Sony PS3 and PS4 to utilize their servers in order to actually have dedicated servers? Do you think, when does Microsoft work with Sony? Hell, they pay millions of dollars just to get the content first, the DLCs first on Xbox 360. They're not about to share out their cloud servers. Sony has their own Gaikai, which they were using to battle against each other. Gaikai's not in effect yet. They don't even know when they're going to be using it yet. The potential is there to download and use digital content, but nothing has been said about Sony saying, yeah, it's ready. It'll be ready with Ghost, dedicated servers. Nothing. All we know is that Infinity Ward said if it were not for the cloud servers of Microsoft, that dedicated servers would not be possible on the consoles. Think about that. Not be possible if it weren't for their... If that's true, there's no way that Microsoft is lending them to Sony and, for the PS3 or PS4. They're not going to do that. It's not Infinity Ward saying we got dedicated servers. They're saying it was the Microsoft cloud servers. And then when we look at the statement made by Mark Rubens talking about, and even the hybrid system, the hybrid dedicated, it's a mix between dedicated and listen servers, and then the tweet saying, hey, you know what, if you're too far away from a dedicated server, it'll likely be a listen server. So he's saying that it's not necessarily that, even within that context, that everyone's going to be on dedicated servers. The statement of saying next gen, current gen, and PC still holds truth. Simply from the Xbox side. You got the Xbox 360 current gen, you got the Xbox One next gen, which was the original announcement, in PC, which was further solidified by them saying, you know what, we're going to even allow possible cross gameplay. So that's already been set up, PC and Microsoft. And Sony's had a relationship with Portal 2, having that ability to play PC, the interconnectivity. So PC is not really a huge competitor. Microsoft doesn't see it. Heck, that's Microsoft's backyard. The PC world and Windows and all that, that's their backyard. They want that Windows 8, that, everything connected sort of thing. Sony's not part of that. So that statement, remember, is still absolutely 100% true if it's just Xbox 360, Xbox One, and PC. And why is it that they cannot? He says, we're not allowed, or I cannot release or name any other platforms. Why? What is up with that? So Microsoft they were able to announce the Xbox One. Is this another case? Because again, it's not surprising, and I'm not here to bash on Sony or Microsoft and Activision or whatever. We already know they have the relationship. The time exclusive release, a 1 month early DLC. We know that they have a close relationship. But making that announcement, who is it that's stopping it or saying that you are not allowed to talk about the possible relationship of dedicated servers for PS3, PS4? It could be. There's two scenarios here, possibly more, but I'm going to talk about two scenarios with that. The one scenario is that it's Microsoft saying, you know what, we want to pay for the announcement, you'll announce that, but do not mention. You can say, and this may tie into one of your theories, or not one of yours, but the theories out there, if every platform gets it, next gen, all you can say is next gen, current gen, and PC. We'll allow you to say that, but don't specifically name PS4 because they're our competition, and we're paying you big dollars to make that announcement. That is a possibility. Microsoft is good at doing that, they're smart at doing that, and it creates a controversy. But what if it's Infinity Ward / Activision, the heads, the corporate heads, the marketing guys, likely Activision because they're the publisher, they're the ones in charge of getting that game out there and promoting it and spending the money to make everyone go, oh, I can't wait for it. What if they made the decision that, you know what, talk about the Xbox One, get that pumped up, make the statement that it'll be on current gen, next gen PC because it's true. We're not lying to anyone, because they're not. But don't mention the PS4 and the lack and the basic reality that they're not going to have dedicated servers because it's only available through the Microsoft cloud servers, because it's only possible, if it weren't for them, they wouldn't have dedicated servers, that it's not going to be that way with the PS4. Make those statements, let the people make that assumption, because if they find out, that we not only made it dedicated and a much better experience on the Xbox One versus the PlayStation 4, Sony's gonna get pissed. We're gonna possibly lose sales from PS3 and PS4 gamers that are gonna be mad. They're like, you know what, this is the last straw. Think about the anger that happens with people and gamers, the fact that Xbox gamers get the DLC 1 month earlier. I personally don't care, but you know as well as I do that this is such a sore spot with gamers. You know what I mean? It's such a sore spot with them that something like this could be a crushing blow. Not only would Infinity Ward and Activision potentially lose sales revenue because from the PlayStation, both sides, PS3, PS4, going, you know what, screw this. Enough of this, you know, favoring Microsoft, we're done with you. Not everyone's going to be like that, but there would be. You think about it. Look at the anger of that. There would be people like that. Not only that, but it also would possibly sting Sony. You know what I mean? Sony's like, great, thanks. You just made our system look like crap. And so that relationship would be tarnished. It could be Sony saying, do not announce that we're not having dedicated on there. Because Sony makes money from third-party software developers. They're going to make a cut of that. And think about it, Call of Duty, no matter what it is still big money on Sony. They don't want to cut that out. They can't afford to cut that out. It's a big moneymaker for them. So they may be the ones saying, fine, you announce it that way, do it this way, but do not specifically say that it will or will not be on our system if it's not on there. Do you see what I'm saying? It's a lot more complex than what people are actually giving thought to. And this is just me, maybe I'm looking into it, but this is what I do. I look at this, I'm like, I don't know, man. Everything that I'm reading, first it's dedicated service for everything, then I'm reading Mark Rubin saying, well, if you're too far away, it'll actually be traditional peer-to-peer. So that's still a possibility. We get no statement. They have not specifically, I defy you to find a statement from Mark Rubin or an executive, not a website, not your, oh, my friend works there and he was mopping the floor and he heard someone say, he said, oh, what's that? The PS3? I don't want to hear that. I want to see a statement. Show me somewhere that they said specifically that dedicated servers will be used for the PS3/PS4. Show me that statement. Nowhere will you find that. All you would get is, we cannot talk about specific platforms. Well, you could talk about Xbox One, but you can't talk about anything else. And even someone brought up a tweet where they specifically asked that question to Mark Rubin. They said, well, you know, when he's made the statement of current gen, next gen, and PC, well, could you assume that that includes, the language is, could you assume that that would include PS3 and PS4? His response was, and I'm not going to say this verbatim because I'm going to mess it up, but this is the gist of it, is we are not able to speak, or we can't basically speak about any other particular platform, but one could assume, so the statement is, one could assume that, you know, that's true. One could assume. That doesn't mean anything. That doesn't mean that, yes, he's simply stating a fact. Yes, by that statement, and it's exactly what I said, it's that way that you interpret it. All he's doing is acknowledging the fact that someone could assume that that's what it means. He's like, yeah, you could assume that. He's not saying it's true. If they're not allowed, think about this though, and I were like, I got it. No, I don't think you do got it. Because if he's not allowed to, if someone's paying them, whether it's Microsoft, it's Activision, or it's Sony, one of those three saying, do not talk about the PS4, you are not allowed to talk about that. If someone is paying that, do you think Mark Rubin is allowed to say, no, I'm not allowed to name specific? He's like, well, you could assume that because it's true. That would get him in just as much trouble for these, you know, what is it, the NDA, non-disclosure agreement or whatever. He would be in potential violation. He could potentially be sued for that. If he was actually, all he's doing is acknowledging. He's like, yeah, you could assume that. So the context of that tweet isn't known. Twitter is so hard to know. He's like, yes, one could assume that. And they're like, oh, I get it. It is going to be there. And he's like, yeah, one could assume that. You don't know. I'm just saying, and I'm not saying that this is the way it is, but when I read all of this, when I read all those individual tweets, when I see what he's saying, that it's not necessarily dedicated across there, it's a hybrid system. The statement may be true with respect to 360, Xbox One, and PC because it's using their servers, which it wouldn't be possible without it. Those servers are not being used for Sony. There's no indication that Gaikai is even up and operational. There's no indication that that's an Infinity Ward providing dedicated servers. It's Microsoft. All those statements are true. I'm just saying it may not necessarily be what we think it is. Food for thought. What are your thoughts on this? What do you feel? Do you think what I'm talking about? Do you see what I'm talking about? I'm hoping I'm wrong. I honestly am. I'm hoping I'm dead wrong with this. But what if? What if we're all just being misled? No one's saying anything. I see that almost as bad as lying, because they're allowing us, you know, people like even me to go, yeah, it is, and everyone's getting it. We're like, we never said that in the end. And then, you know, we go out there and we assume we're undedicated. How are we gonna know that? I'm looking for a statement. With the second that Sony announces, Infinity Ward, Activision, whoever it is, that announces officially that the PS3, PS4 will have dedicated servers, then you know what? I'll be satisfied. Until then, I'm questioning the entire thing, people. The entire thing, because that's what I do. Thanks for joining me. Just a little food for thought on the weekend. Hope you enjoy yourself. I'll be up at the cottage with my family, having fun. I'm curious to read some of your comments and how you feel about all of this. And I'll put a bunch of links. You can read all those links. What are your thoughts? Any merit to it? Do you think I'm just blowing smoke? Possibly. Hopefully. But I don't know. I question it. See you later.